The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, a show known for its sharp humor.
I am gonna teach you how to swim.
No way.
Jump!
No. And its even sharper wardrobe, worn by its main character, Midge Maisel. All beautifully designed by Donna Zekowska. And if you wanted an outfit just like Midge Maisel, hi, I'm Stephanie Canada. I've been selling vintage sewing patterns for the better part of 10 years, and I am here to help you
Me?
figure out which vintage patterns will be best made to recreate your favorite Midge Maisel outfit. So let's go ahead and dive on in to season 1. Which the most obvious answer is, of course, that pink coat, which is honestly going to be one of the most easy to at least describe to you because it is already in the Smithsonian Institute. Described as pink wool coat worn by Rachel Brosnahan in the Amazon series The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The coat is collared with a slight V-neck and a pink hook and loop closure. The coat fans out in a long skirt with a pocket on both right and left side. Now, as this entire series is set in the late 1950s through the early 1960s, we should be able to find some good dupes by mainly looking for things such as swing coat. That's going to be your main search function when you're looking to recreate this coat. But let's dive a little deeper. The coat has a rolled collar, set-in sleeves, a back yoke, with the sleeves actually having a seam right along the top of the arm, as well as a back vent. Your best two patterns to mimic this are going to be Simplicity 1867 or Simplicity 8447. And if you're going for good enough, you want to look for McCall's 3766 or McCall's 4192 or the reproduction from Lady Marlowe to give you the same flair. And the other most notable item is absolutely going to be that little black dress.
Wow, so nice considering you thought you were here to see Lenny Bruce and instead you have to listen to me for a while.
This fit and flare styled dress does seem to have both a side dart and a waist dart, as well as a, if not full skirt, a semicircle full skirt, with a matching black belt, ribbons at the shoulders, and very thin straps and a high neckline a la Audrey Hepburn. As for patterns you can use, Simplicity 1232 and Simplicity 2488 both have the correct bodice style, however you would have to add a circle skirt to the bottom. You could also just make a boat neck blouse, and two patterns that will work well for that are Simplicity 1201 and Mrs. Depew 1009. Neither of those are going to be spot on, but they will give you the vibe of the little black dress. Also in season 1, we cannot forget the iconic red dress.
Mary Adam's son, Cain. We get a nice little place. I think we're very happy. And then one day, Cain leaves me.
But while I don't have to worry about finding a vintage pattern for that, unless you would just like to go find one, and if so, I think Advanced 7974 from the 1950s patterns would be the best fit. You can also just go to Costume Industry Coalition's Etsy page and buy the reproduction directly from them. It does come in two sizes, 0 to 18 and 18 through 34. And thankfully this pattern sits right around $22 and is a PDF print from home, so it's super easy to reproduce. Moving on to season 2. And of course, with that season 2, we have to start out with the sunny, bubbly, very yellow Catskill dress.
Welcome back to Steiner Mountain Resort, your home away from home.
Some of the search terms that you can help use to find this are going to be empire waist, princess line skirt, and square neckline. The patterns that best align with that are going to look something like if you Frankensteined the skirt from Butterick 7810 and the top from either Butterick 7818 or Simplicity 3994. Or you could alter the tops of Simplicity 4801 or 1303 to also get the desired look. Or when in doubt, aim for a princess line skirt pattern, such as Butterick 7223 or Advanced 6833, and pair it with a summer top, such as Advanced 9681, Butterick 9380, or Women's Day 5055. And as much as I really hate to admit this, you could also use Butterick 6018, the reproduction from 1952. Also in season 2, we have the absolutely iconic Catskill Playsuit.
Perfect. Everyone's already watching us.
Even with the Petang Championships going on, we're still a pole.
Where we can see a halter top playsuit that does have a different color of shorts from the top, but the top is matching an overlay skirt. However, there is an actual chance that this is a halter skirt combo with shorts that peep through, which while that's not your standard playsuit, you can absolutely adjust any pattern you find to play like that. Or you can just make it like a normal playsuit, because really I don't fully understand why they would make that choice except for the fact that they're on TV.
It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
There does look to be a surplice top, and if you look toward the belt, you can see a little belt loop, which is why I want to think that it is a halter top into the skirt with shorts that go underneath a peekaboo skirt instead of the standard style. But here are some patterns that you can use to try and get this look. For a more exact replication, you want to look for Simplicity 3879 or the harder to find Butterick 5774. The reason why Butterick is going to be a little bit harder is because it does have that surplice top. All you would have to do to get the exact look is to split the skirt right down the middle. For alternate options that give you the feel without the exact duplication, try Simplicity 4338, or you can try a vintage reproduction from Mrs. Depew, number 5155, but don't add the sailor collar or bow. And instead of putting buttons on your skirt, just leave it open.
Big shots tip, but that guy doesn't work here. What? Shit. Hey, give me that back!
And diving right into season 3 takes us to the poolside.
Say I fucking hate Florida.
And that beautiful pink swimsuit. This one actually shouldn't be too hard to reproduce because swimsuits from this era, while they are harder to find, they are not as hard as things like the 1920s. These do tend to be a little bit more easily available and not quite priced as high as some of the older patterns. For this, you're looking for a halter top swimsuit with fitted waist and a skirted bottom, all of which is one piece and will not come apart. Patterns that can achieve this look are Simplicity 4307, which honestly, I have to pat myself on the back a little bit for this one because this is pretty spot on, so long as you change the straps to being a halter top. Other ones that get pretty close are McCall's 6780, Vogue 9375, and Mail Order 9018. All of which, by adding a bow and a halter strap, could easily get you the look you're going for. And unfortunately, I can't let this go without mentioning that Simplicity absolutely reproduced the very first pattern, 4307, with another vintage pattern, reproduction, and we all know how I feel about those. And along the rest of the lines of season 3, my other favorite piece is going to be, that's right, the striped dress, when she returns to New York City. And yes, I know the pun was bad. Now, from what I can tell, there is one of two ways that this dress is functional. As I don't have it in my current hands, I can't be 100% positive, but what I can tell from the photos that I've been able to see is that it is a deep V-neck dress, and it either has princess seams that run from about mid-arm down to create the tucked look, or it has a very wide front dart that has been closed to swing those stripes around to create the look that we're seeing. Either way, the way this dress is structured is spectacular and took someone a whole lot of time. The skirt thankfully looks to be a little bit easier. It does look to be just a full circle skirt that is cut on the diagonal so that you get the lovely points as you run down the center of the garment. Patterns such as Simplicity 4287, 4283, and New York 932 all have similar bodices that would get you the V shape, some of which would require more modification than others by swinging the darts around, but most could get you where you need to go. However, none of them have the exact skirt, and if you're like me and don't feel like using a circle skirt calculator, you can always buy a reproduction like the one from Mrs. Depew. Other patterns that will get you the feel for the dress without exact line for line are Advanced 7965 and either Vogue S4544 or S4800, both of which were reproduced in the form of V1172. Which, if you're curious how that lines up line for line, I did do a video about that and I will link it in the description box below. As far as the belt goes, I cannot 100% tell if it is physically attached to the dress or whether or not that is a separate piece, but either way it would be two rectangular pieces that would run across the waist, one of them being sheer, which is the peach on top, and one of them being a darker, more opaque teal on the bottom.
Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble.
Now, season 4 had no shortage of fantastic fashions. In fact, it was one of the more difficult to choose from. However, the two that I have picked from this season are going to be the scalloped lovely teal sheath number that you see with her and her mother, such patterns as Simplicity 2488 and 2564 will give you the correct lines to the dress, but it doesn't have any of the scallop detail, unfortunately. Whereas Simplicity 4499 and Butterick 7687 do have the scallops, However, the neckline will need to be adjusted, and overall the fit will have to be mimicked closer to what you see on screen if you're going for an exact replica. But these provide the scallops, whereas the others don't. And of course you can't forget the dress from Shy Baldwin's wedding with this amazing bodice structure. And one of the things I find particularly interesting about this dress is that it is not what I originally thought, where the pointed yoke that you see here goes down into a straight line bodice. It actually folds into a scoop neck bodice instead. This will prove a little bit more challenging when it comes to vintage patterns, because you would either see a cutout neckline or a scoop neck. Usually those two don't intermingle. And if they do, that pattern is probably going to be pretty pricey. So some patterns that you can kind of cobble this together yourself are going to be finding yourself a scoop neck dress and then a dicky pattern. And instead of doing just a straight dicky that would go under the dress, you actually would attach it to the dress and leave yourself that point into the bow. Because also, why not underneath that bow lies a Peter Pan style collar with a wider collar, sort of like where mine sits right now, with matching covered buttons. So patterns such as Vogue 7959, Butterick 9566, and Advance 8125 all have similar looks. You would have to change the skirt out to being a circle skirt, and you would have to do some minor manipulations to all of them to get them to exactly match, but these are going to be your closest. And then you just want to look for a Peter Pan collar dicky, because no matter which pattern you use, you will have to adjust to get that cutout look. However, there are some that have a good start on your journey. And now we come to season 5.
I mean, I spent hours thinking about it, sorting through multiple color combinations, but around 5 this morning, something struck me.
Is it a blunt object?
Which has yet another iconic little black dress. This time around with a scoop neckline, a side front closure that does include 2 self-fabric bows. It also has a pleated skirt. However, unlike normal pleated skirts, this one has a flat front and the pleat folds face inward. So you would go, this is your fabric, you're going to be pulling it in and folding this way. Wow, that hurt. But yes, you'd be taking it and folding it in so that the skirt front is flat and you have 3 pleats aiming forward, as opposed to the standard aiming back or around, or however else you would like to make them. Patterns that will get you close are McCall's 5780 and McCall's 6069. You will have to do the pleating more like Midge with the flat front and the folds forward, as opposed to the gathered or pleated skirts seen here. Other patterns that will get you close, but you'll have to do more adjustments: Advance 9406, McCall's 5971, and McCall's 6127. All of which will get you close, but most of which you'll have to either add sleeves and change up the skirt to get to the original look of Midge's dress. And the final dress is going to be, that's right, in case you haven't been on this channel terribly long, I do love a good sailor outfit, and she has a wonderful one in season 5.
Number 1 in the ratings. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Jack Parsha.
The dress, however, is a halter top with an oversized collar. But what is interesting to me is that instead of maintaining the natural empire waist that goes straight across, it does come to a slight point at the center front, which, while this is slightly more difficult to find in vintage patterns, it is not impossible. So let's recreate it with these patterns. And while I desperately want to recommend to you a 1950s sailor dress, that is not the search term that is going to get you where you need to go. What you need to be looking for is a 1950s halter top fit and flare. And I did find a couple with collars that were similar-ish. However, none of these are readily available, and they are quite pricey when you do find them. However, a shocking stunner from the left field is that if you look for a 1970s halter top with dagger collar, that will get you closer to the look of what Midge is going for, as opposed to the 1950s. And bonus, it's easily available and much cheaper. The biggest difference is that you'd have to cut it along the fold of the fabric, that way you don't have a seam running down the middle to match Midge's dress a little bit closer. I do hope you enjoyed coming with me on this journey today. If there were any Midge Maisel's dresses that I did miss, please let me know down in the comments below, and maybe I can do a part 2 for you to help you recreate other of Mrs. Maisel's outfits, because heavens knows, there was a lot of them. If you'd like to hang out with me a little bit more, I also found dresses to match WandaVision back in the day, and YouTube thinks that you will enjoy this video right here. Have a wonderful day, folks, and so in chaos. Bye! And I know you didn't ask, but yes, indeed, I did do this on an absolute whim because I had a photo shoot earlier and I had already paid my friend to make me look like this. Because I can't do this.